hasn't actually given any substance to anything she's done so far, and that's where it all comes. I see again. I was a political lobbyist for the university sector for a decade, and her speech this week, it betrayed a complete lack of understanding of the finances of higher education. Her proposal will generate absolutely minuscule amounts of money, and it'll take 15 years for that to happen. She hasn't done the numbers, and I think that's her problem, or one of her problems.
Well, she does give it.
The other biggest problem, I think, and this is round about radical independence campaign as well, is there has been a realignment, and now's not the time to be naming names, but the number of senior Labour Party member trade union figures who are gravitating away from the Labour Party over this attack on universalism and over the tone of the Better Together campaign is significant. For the first time that I can remember in probably 10 years, the Labour Party has some life in it below the leadership. There's actually things starting to happen again in the Labour Party below the leadership, and that's largely because people aren't that chuffed with the leadership. And bear in mind, Johann Lamont did not run either of those big interventions by the party. Her first speech on universalism was given to them, completed a matter of hours before it was delivered, and the second, as far as I know, wasn't run by the party at all.
Do you think she's sorry, Robin? Do you think she's receiving orders from London?
No, I don't. I don't think that at all. I don't think it's anything like that clever. To be completely honest with you, I don't think London's paying all that much attention to Scotland just now. Too busy trying to work out how to buy a sausage roll in Greggs and look cool while doing it. Up in Scotland, I don't think that's really what's happening. I do think that I think Johann Lamont wasn't known as one of the most enthusiastic devolutionists within the Labour Party in the first place. She came more from the old, working class solidarity group within the Labour Party, but I think more to the point, I think it looks to me at the moment like a differentiation strategy. Now, if I explain what I mean by that, when you sit down, you either get a policy person in to say what is our big idea, or you get a PR person in to say what do we want it to look like our big idea is. And it seems to me that it's the latter. So there's an awful lot of, how shall I say, flashing the knickers at certain people in the media who have certain views. There's no question that all of that has been pitched at some people in the media to give something which can differentiate Labour from the SNP. So, but and this is my big
maybe Robin, sorry, just to cut in there. I'd be interested because I'm pretty sure I remember reading something from you, Alex, about in defence of Lamont's.
God, did I?
I just wondered. I mean, over the course of our 12 months,
everybody has fairly, shameful skeletons in their online.
That's a tough sale.
But I wonder. I mean, what do you think? I mean, after a year and a bit into Lamont's, how she's been getting on, and how the Scottish Labour Party, does it feel to you as if it's coming back to life, whether at the grassroots or at the top?
Well, I mean, to some extent, the life and death of the Scottish Labour Party is a subject to which I am fairly indifferent. But I think that if you force me to have an opinion about it, Lamont, I think she's probably done a little bit better than perhaps one first imagined she might. I take Robin's point about punches aren't necessarily always the way to win a fight, but I think it was important for Labour's own morale that they have a leader who was at least capable of throwing a punch, and that in that respect, Lamont constitutes an improvement upon her predecessor.
I've actually been running a betting circle now that every time that First Minister's Questions comes on what minute she's going to ask for an apology.
Well, yes, but then First Minister's Questions is so unwatchable that anything that happens there, I mean, it makes Prime Minister's Questions look as edified as the Americans think Prime Minister's Questions is. Robert McNeill's old line about First Minister's Questions being hamster wars, I think now needs to be redefined because it's grotesquely insulting to hamsters. I mean, to one extent, there is a slight problem with that, in as much as when anybody does pay attention to what's happening at Holyrood and so on, I think that has to be very bad for the independence cause, because it is so frequently, holding your head in your hands and wondering, God Almighty, can we not do a bit better than this? If this is what half a government looks like, how much worse would the real thing be? But as for Lamont, I think yes, she's wanting to differentiate herself from the SNP, but I don't get the sense that she's entirely thought through exactly where it is she's going or where she would actually like to take the Labour Party. There is a large degree, I think, to which it's just well, the SNPs think this, so therefore we must think this. If the SNP, the SNP are quite happy to propose all sorts of Labour policies. Now Labour is in the position of opposing Labour policies because they're being implemented by the SNP. I mean, the whole thing makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay, well that's maybe this is the point. With the sun gone down and we're all feeling deeply festive here, I expect we can move on to the last wee feature of this review of the year podcast. Michael, you've been digging among the press cuttings of the year to produce some of your favourite stories. Do you want to talk about them?
Well, yeah. In the edit, in our luscious studios that we have here, I'm going to add some rather comedy music under this, so I hope neither Robin or Alex get offended by that. But our little quiz for the end of the year is absurd unionist scare story of the year, because I'm sure you'd all agree that there's been quite a few. We mentioned one, like Scotland would be bombed. So I've
but only by the English, not by the Americans.
Oh yeah, of course.
I find that reassuring, personally.
Well, that's what the NATO debate was about. But so, I made a list and I've kind of reworded them a little bit. So, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to read you 5, one of which that I have just made up completely, 4 of which are were written about. That doesn't mean they're true, but have appeared somewhere. And I'm just going to invite you all. I'll go to you all individually, and you can decide which one you think is okay. I was worrying about this, but I'm going to say it. Why not? It's Christmas. Have fun. So I was going to call this section True or Fulks. So there you go. So you have to say it's true or fulks. So, right, number 1. Scottish separation would be unchristian. Number 2.
That explains Muslims for independence, doesn't it?
Yeah. Number 2. Conscription would be necessary because no Scots would volunteer to defend their country. Number 3.
This is already slightly sinister.
Yeah.
At least one of these is true. That's somewhat worrying.
Number 3. Hotels would close because tourists would be confused about where they were actually going, and it would be bad for the hospitality industry. Number 4. England would be unable to defend itself by launching nuclear missiles for at least 20 years. And number 5. Islam would become the number 1 religion in Scotland. So there you go. I think I'll go to Andrew first.
Oh dear, well I think they all sound deeply convincing, and I've now converted. I'm now going to be a staunch defender of the Union now, particularly about the hotels. We can't have people getting lost around Gloucestershire, desperately trying to find their way. Yeah, I think, which one isn't true? The Muslim one can't be true. Actually, no, it probably can be true.
No, you can read all sorts of stuff in the Daily Express. I think the Muslim one probably is true.
Oh yeah, I'll guess the Muslim one is the false one. I hope.
Okay, we'll go to Robin.
Now, I should note that one of these I'm responsible for. So the 20 years decommissioning of Trident is actually a CND thing which I helped work. So I know for certain that one was there. I know the Tailwind run because I saw that one. And what was the second one? Oh, the conscription one was a real one. So I'm a little bit caught because you could say that it's anti-Christian and pro-Islam. That sounds like the same story twice. I actually don't think I've heard anybody saying that independence would be anti-Christian. Surprising as it is, I have a slight feeling that
isn't there the wee freeze? Oh, isn't there some wee freeze somewhere that we're sort of saying that?
The problem is the wee freeze say that about everything. Breakfast is unchristian. It's very difficult.
Is unchristian, that's right.
But I haven't seen the non-Christian thing, but I have seen a little bit of Islam baiting as part of the campaign, partly because of the Muslims for Independence. I'm going to take a shot at anti-Christian is the one that's not true.
Okay, so we'll go to Alex.
I'm going to. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful if they were all actually true? I haven't seen the conscription thing, but that is the sort of thing that is sufficiently bonkers that some idiot Tory MP in England could have said that, or a Glasgow Labour MP, I suppose. And again, I'm sure that the BNP or somebody of that sort will have said that will have had the Scotland is going to be invaded by hordes of Saracens if it becomes independent. So I think the unchristian thing is probably the one that you've made up. But I wouldn't want to wager too much money on that proposition.
Okay,
because they're all sufficiently bonkers that you could have made up any of them.
Okay, we've lost Robin for a second.
We'd hate to deprive him of the great revelatory moment.
Well, the suspense is now really excruciating.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure the Christian one. I heard something because it was harking back to sort of covenant theology or something that the Union represented a sacrosanct agreement of the Scotch people with their.
Yeah, but actually, can the hotels one really be true? Because would Scotland would be a very unusual country if it had no hotels.
We can borrow some we can import some from Dublin, I expect.
Yeah, I went to university in Dublin and spent many years in Ireland, and I've never yet found there to be a crisis in the Irish hotel industry because of as a result of its disastrous voyage to independence a century ago.
Okay, Robin's back. I'll just add him in again.
Yes.
But,
actually, just maybe if you're just recording, I was going to ask you. Actually, I mentioned this earlier, Alex. But do you think maybe your experience of being a student in Ireland at Trinity was it?
Yeah.
Maybe did weigh a bit in terms of how you see the whole independence thing.
So I mean, I did a lot of debating at when I was an undergraduate. Far too much, really. And myself and a couple of other Scottish friends at Dublin, so our sort of party piece was to twist any motion, any subject for debate, no matter what it was or how tangential it seemed to the idea of Scottish independence, was to be able to find a way of twisting the argument so that it became that we ended up arguing in favour of independence. It became a bit of a joke, and it was largely, I think, just to annoy other people in a sort of tiresome, smart-ass kind of undergraduate fashion. But yeah, I think it certainly did have an impact on my sort of political thinking, and as much as Ireland, despite its present troubles, is of course a tolerably successful country, and seeing Ireland's success, particularly in the 1990s, was something that I think you certainly saw how it put it made the notion that there was something inherently absurd about the independence cause for Scotland. It made that seem terribly insignificant and just nonsense.
Okay, are you back with us, Robin?
Yes, I am. Which was the false story? I missed it. I disappeared.
Splendid.
Okay.
So, Michael, what is the great lie? Which one is the false story?
Well, I'd like to run through them. The Scottish separation would be unchristian. That one's actually true. Robin called it right. It was the wee freeze. What they actually said, I rephrased it a bit so it wasn't too obvious, but what they actually said is Scottish independence would be a provocation of God.
That seems very odd.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, that's mad. Okay. Conscription would be necessary because no Scots would volunteer. Yeah, that's true. What they actually said was that to join the Scottish Army would be so boring because we're not invading places like Iraq and Afghanistan that nobody would actually join up.
Was that the wee freeze saying that as well?
No, that was some ex-general.
And you published that?
I think that was actually in the Scotsman. Hold on.
It was the Scotsman. I remember the story. He described them as long-haired. They would be long-haired hippies like the Norwegians, like the Swedish army. Was a part of the quote in that one.
Okay, and again, Robin got it right. England would be unable to defend itself for 20 years. That was definitely true. The hotels thing was true as well because people would be confused about where they actually were. The argument didn't seem it's on caterersearch.com.
That's a great source of contemporary news.
Yes, this week's guest.
I'm really interested. What do you do if you're in a strange place and you don't know where you are? Do you sleep in your car? I mean, is no